YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, y'all. And today what we're doing is we're going to be basically dyeing my closure and my bundles, and we're also going to be turning that into a wig. So what you're going to need is your closure, you're gonna need your powder. I'm using the Claro Professionals Kaleido Colors powder. You're also gonna need a 30 developer or developer of your choice. You're also gonna need the Shimmer Lights shampoo, and basically we're gonna use that as the toner to tone down that yellow in the closure to get it more blonde. You're also gonna need the colors of your choice to dye your hair with. I use Mocha and Honey Brown in Adore, and I use a cream of soda in the Claro Professionals. Y'all, so what I'm doing right now is I'm basically going to bleach the knots on the closure, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to get the closure as transparent as it possibly can, because as you can see, the closure is very white on the lace and stuff like that. So we just want to get it as transparent as we can, so that way when we melt it and do that process, it'll look more skin-like instead of so white and looking so wiggy. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're basically going to take the powder and we're going to pour some in the bowl. With everything that you're using right here to bleach your knots, you're just going to go little by little with everything. And the reason being is because you don't want anything when you're mixing and stuff. You want the consistency to be right, and you also don't want it to seep through the knots on the hair, because if it does, it will change the color of your closure. So if you don't mind that, then that's just your preference, but I'm warning you now, if it does seep through, it will change the color of your closure, and the knots and everything like that. So be mindful of that. So I'm just basically taking a little bit of the powder, a little bit of developer, time by time, and you're just going to keep doing that. You're just going to keep taking a little by little. Whenever you need more, you're just going to do the same thing. Pour little by little, mix it, and get it to the correct consistency that it needs to be, which is thick. It needs to be as thick as it can, not so thick where it looks powdery, but just thick enough so that way it's not watery. So yeah, as you can see, it is on the powdery side a little bit. So I'm going to take some more of the developer, and I'm just going to keep pouring as much as I need to get it to the correct consistency. Okay, so once you feel as though you got it to the thick enough consistency, you can now place it on the knots. As you're placing it, it may look like my hands are like really brushing it through, but they are not. You do not want to brush it through, because like I said, it will seep through the hair and change the color of it. You just want to lightly rub it on the closure, because you're just bleaching the knots of it, and that's it. So now after you've done that, I'm basically just going to let that sit for like 10 minutes wrapped up in the foil, and basically just want to keep checking it every, like every 5 minutes. Okay, y'all, so now I'm just basically checking the hair again, and I checked it off camera, and it actually needed to sit for 20 minutes instead of 10, just so it could work through more. So yeah, what now we're gonna do is we're gonna wash the hair, but I'm gonna just show y'all again one more time how the parts in the hair look now. So as you can see, the bleach actually did work, and it made the closure more translucent and stuff like that. It got rid of those harsh knots in the closure. So yeah, that was the goal that we're going for. So yeah. But what you're gonna do now is we're just going to be washing off that bleach. And as you're washing off the bleach, you need to make sure that you are getting all of the bleach off of the closure, because any bleach left behind, it will cause your closure to shed, and you do not want that. So yeah, just make sure that you are power washing all of the bleach off the hair. Okay, so we're basically going to go in with this neutralizing shampoo and conditioner, and we're going to wash the closure off with that. So at first we just rinsed off the bleach, but now we're going to make sure we thoroughly wash the closure and taking off any bleach that may have still been on the hair, or still on the closure. And so here I'm basically just showing you what the knots on the closure look like now, with the bleach and stuff washed off. And as you can see, it took really well with the bleach. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're taking this pot of hot water and the Shimmer Lights shampoo, and we're just going to mix it in there so that way I can take my closure after we've bleached the knots and washed it off. We're just going to take the closure and put it in there to basically tone the hair, to get it from that yellow color to more of a ash blonde or blonde, just so that way it's not, that high wiggy Barbie doll hair looking color. Okay, so here I'm basically just going to take a strand of the hair and test it just to see, if that toning with the Shimmer Light shampoo actually works. And then we're just going to let it sit in there, and we're going to, just let it sit for like 10 minutes so that way it can tone all the way through. And then we're going to come back and do the dyeing process with the bundles. Okay, so we've toned the closure and stuff off camera. So now we're just gonna jump right into the watercolor method of dyeing the bundles. So I'm just basically gonna take the Watercolor in the shade Mocha, in the color Mocha, and we're basically just gonna dump it all in this pot of hot water. And basically we're doing a watercolor method just because I feel like it's more easier. So yeah, you're just gonna put all 4 bottles in there. I started off with the first one, just putting it in there, and I think I just tested it with the napkin to see what color it was before I added in another bottle. Okay, so right here is where I'm just going to take that napkin and I'm going to test how dark it is. And as you can see, it's more on the lighter side, almost to the color that I need it to be. So we're just going to add another bottle just to get it darker. And so once we've got it there with the 2 bottles, I'm going to just test the strand of the hair to see how, chocolate it has gotten. And then once it's gotten to the correct color that I want, we're just going to dip the whole bundle in there. Okay, so right here, I'm basically just, dipping the bundle in, and I'm letting it get as saturated with the color as it possibly can. And I'm just picking up some water in the bottle, in one of the bottles that I used, and I'm just getting all of the color out and making sure I'm actually like rubbing it through the hair and stuff like that. Okay, so after we've dyed the hair Basically what we're doing right now is we're just taking and washing off all that excess dye that's in the hair, because you don't want to leave it in and it's going to start, you know, like shedding all of your hair out. So you want to make sure you're thoroughly washing that through. And my arms are totally in the way, but it's okay. So yeah, you're just gonna take and wash all of that stuff out. You're gonna do that for each of the bundles, or as much hair that you dye, you're just gonna continue to wash everything out of it. And I'm just taking that neutralizing shampoo and conditioner again, and like I said, we're just gonna wash all the dye out of all the bundles, and you know, just get all the excess dye out, so that way it's no more product in the hair that's gonna make it shed and stuff like that. Okay, so we have now made it to the dyeing of the closure piece, and basically what I'm showing y'all is the 3 different parts that I've put in the closure to section it off, because those 3 parts right there, I'm basically going to take the Mocha color like I did with the bundles, and I'm going to use that to dye all 3 of those parts. And the rest of the closure, I'm basically going to do highlights in, but those 3 sections, I'm going to do all Mocha to that part of it. So I'm basically just taking my brush and I'm brushing that color through each of those sections, and I'm just gonna, you know, like lather it in all of the Mocha color for each of those sections that I parted. And after that, we're basically just going to wrap it up in foil, and we're going to let it sit for 10 minutes just for it to, you know, soak through and process. Okay, so the 10 minutes are up, and so now we're just gonna take and work through the top of the closure, and we're just gonna section it and, you know, start adding the highlights section by section. I'm gonna be going in with the Caro Professionals cream of soda. Also, I'm going to be using the honey brown from Adore, and I'm going to be using more of that Mocha color. I don't know why I didn't show no more, but I'm going to also be using that color too, as to highlight the closure as well. I'm basically sectioning off the pieces in the back first, and we're gonna work from the back to the front because it's much more easier that way. If you mess up anything, you know, it can always be covered up in the back instead of in the front. So that's why we're just gonna start with the highlights from the back to the front. Okay, so now I'm taking my foil and I'm going to put it behind the hair so that way we can start dyeing it, so that when we're done, we can just wrap it up and let the hair sit for 10 minutes. As you can see, I'm just zigzagging the hair to get the highlights, you know, as evenly through the hair and not thick chunks of the highlight. We're just going to zigzag it through to make it, you know, evenly through the hair. Okay, so basically this is the hair when we've done added the highlights, but I actually went off camera and added more because I felt like it was too blonde in the front. So we're just gonna let that sit for 10 minutes and then we're gonna come back and unfoil it. Okay, so this is the hair now as we're unfoiling it. So basically what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna take and wash it, and as you can see, I've added more of the highlight in it. It was more darker like I wanted it to be instead of too blonde. So yeah, we're just washing it off, and once again we're gonna use that neutralizing shampoo and conditioner just to get all of the excess dye out again. So I'm basically just gonna let the hair air dry overnight, and then we're gonna come back once everything is dry and washed and stuff like that, and we're gonna put the wig together. So stay tuned for that. Okay, y'all, so it's now the next day and we're gonna get started with the sewing process. So what you're gonna need is a needle and thread. You're gonna need a 22-inch mannequin head, and you're gonna need this mannequin head. It's like a foam one, I'm guessing, because you're gonna need stick pins to hold the closure on it before you actually get to sew it down, and everything else that you're gonna need to stick it with. This head is actually gonna be easier to stick the pins in. Also, you're gonna need that type of head because it is it shapes the same as your head, so it's more realistic. Now what I'm doing is I'm basically putting my ball cap on top, and then I'm taking my closure and I'm angling it because I want a side part with my wig that I'm making. So I'm going to angle the closure to the side instead of leaving it in the middle. If you want a middle part, then you put it in the middle, but I wanted a side part, so I'm going to angle the closure to the side, and then I'm going to use my stick pins to stick it in and then hold it once so I can sew down the sides of it. Okay, so now I'm just showing y'all my thread, and I've made a knot at the end so that way when you're sewing it does not come loose at the end. So yeah, I'm just gonna take and sew down the first side of the closure, and as you can see, I'm gonna go from the ball cap into the closure, and I'm just gonna pull it up, and I'm gonna make sure I pull tight so that way it doesn't come loose. Also, you can take your thread and loop it around the needle and then stick it in and sew it, so that way it doesn't come loose as well. It'll make sure that it's holding it really tight. Okay, so now I'm sewing down the back of the closure, and basically what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat the process all around the closure by just, taking and sewing it down to the ball cap so that way it doesn't come up. And then when you're done with that, we're going to jump into sewing down the bundles. Okay, so right here I'm just showing y'all how much of the hair we're going to start off with as for sewing it down, and I cut it. So now we're just going to jump into sewing down the first bundle. And when you're sewing down the bundles, in order to make the hair stretch when you're sewing down your hair, you can just skip a lot of the bald cap. So what I mean by that is you don't have to sew really close to each bundle. You just sew enough so that way you don't see the black cap in between your hair, but so that way you can stretch the hair. Because right here on this part, I actually was still working my way on to my first bundle. I haven't even touched my second bundle yet. So just make your hair stretch as much as you can by not sewing so close to each track. Okay, so the way that I'm sewing now is I'm just aligning the track to the back of the closure, and I'm basically just gonna go in the C shape like the head is shaped right now. I'm just gonna take and outline that C shape, and that's just basically how we're gonna sew. So then when we get closer to the hair, I'm gonna, as I'm showing you right now, how many pieces I'm gonna cut and how close up I'm gonna cut them. So I'm going to start with this track up here when I get closer, and I'm going to sew this down closer to the closure, and then we're going to finish sewing those middle pieces. Okay, so now that I've sewed that part down behind the closure, I'm just gonna take and cut these little short pieces, and we're gonna go sideways and just sew them down that way. So that way we didn't have to add too many tracks, and I still have a full bundle left after sewing up my hair. Okay, y'all, so I'm going to continue to just sew down the rest of those little pieces, and then I'm going to show y'all the final product. But this is the ending of this video, you guys. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'm going to list down below the hair that I actually used for you guys and all of the other products. But thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video. Bye, guys.
Crazy curvy wavy big titties, little waist body. Crazy curvy wavy big titties, little waist body. Yada 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 yada. How I body that?